Good. Did you guys wind up fundraising the amount that you needed?
We're still short, but we're all right. But yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Good. Good. Glad to hear it.
Good afternoon. I tell you what, I've been with it all day. I supposed to send some links out, and I've forgotten about the links. Then I was supposed to go out this morning, and I thought, nah, I didn't go out this morning. So today, well, there you go. It's been one of those days. But it doesn't worry about it. We're not worried about it. Um, just an update on the fundraiser. The fundraiser is still carrying on. I think it's about £80 short now on the thingy. So thank you guys for donating. So that is brilliant. That is brilliant. And so really, really thank you. Tonight I got Warren here. I'd really forgotten about Warren, you know. I did actually forgotten about him. First time. But I want to talk about tonight. Um, it's really, really very important, I think. It's about behavior in, children, about behavior, because sometimes, when they're babies, Warren, when they're actually
Yep.
babies, and they can be nice as pie, all they do is scream and everything. But then they go up to a certain age, and that's where it comes
Yes.
in it. All the behavior problems and the
Oh yeah.
playing up. Mummy, I want this, And if they've got children, that's Bow Doll. That's my action man. Mummy said do this. Isn't it right?
Oh yeah. And it doesn't go away. It just changes. So small kids, small problems, but lots of them. Bigger kids, big problems, but fewer of them. And that behavior just changes from the no's, like the no, I won't do it, right? To the uh absolutely not, you can go F yourself type of response that you get. So it just they're constantly testing boundaries.
Of course, yeah. Children, they always do, they test every boundary,
Mm-hmm.
but they test us too, don't they? They kind of think, right, how far will mum or dad go if I do this?
Yep.
And I remember my son, when he was younger, he used to have an action man,
Mm-hmm.
and he used to take the head off and chuck it at his sister,
Yep.
and 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 they said, and he said to me, he said, if you play up, that's what I'm going to do with your head and things like that, and it was a bit
Yep.
nasty and things like that. And sometimes, behavior in children, sometimes it can be very kind of really, really difficult to control because as parents, sometimes if we're soft like I am,
Yeah.
well, where I used to be, you know, I think I was more the softer person and the my wife was the harsh person,
Yeah.
So it's no
Yeah.
taking the head off the action man or things like that, or taking the arm off or anything else like that.
Yeah.
You, I remember my son coming one day and said, um, "Mum, my action man ain't got no arms, no legs, no arms, no legs, and no head." And my daughter, she was about 6 or 7. She said, "Well, that's a nobody," and they really are kind of like actually kind of they're switched on,
Yeah.
ain't they?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Uh, that's a good pun from your daughter. um, that they certainly pick things up very quickly, and I think you hit on a key point there in the difference between yourself and your wife in the way that you treat the kids and the differences that creates. So there are essentially like four different models for parenting. I don't know if you and I have chatted about this before, but there's authoritarian, which is, you know, ruling with an iron fist, really hard set rules, you know, high expectations, that sort of thing. Then there's authoritative, which is firm guidelines but open communication. Then there is permissive, which is, oh, well, you know, it's okay, we'll just let them do whatever they want, that sort of thing, the laissez-faire type attitude towards parenting. And then there's neglectful, right, which is being an absentee parent, or you know, distracted parenting, focus more on your phone than on your kids, that sort of thing. And each of them have different ramifications for the way that your kids are going to grow up. Authoritarian, you know, being too critical and hard on your kids, results in a lot of self-confidence issues. It results in a lot of rebellion. Think of it like ruling through fear. And the only way that that works is if you constantly have your eyes on your kid. The second you take your eyes off of them, because there's no more fear, because there isn't going to be consequences for their action, they don't tend to do as you want them to do. Then you go the other way. Neglectful creates huge self-confidence issues because there's issues of abandonment and those sorts of things. Permissive leads to children that are disrespectful, rude, you know, they don't care. There's a lack of drive and discipline, that sort of thing. And then authoritative tends to be the best middle ground. It results in children that are concerned about what they're accomplishing. They understand what the guidelines are, so they know how to behave within them. They understand what the consequences of going outside of those guidelines are, and they tend to have the best sense of self-confidence. They tend to have the greatest amount of self-discipline and drive, all those sorts of things. So it's understanding how we differentiate those different parenting styles is so important.
Yeah, because the trouble is, though, when they go to a certain age, they're lovely when they're younger.
Yes.
You know, if they stayed younger, that'd do me. You know what I mean? But when they kind of like get older and get wiser and they grow up, and like, you know, I've got, you know, I've got like, you know, I can call them now adults. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And they
Yeah.
got up to that age. You know, they say, you know, I remember when they said, "Don't need you no more. Bye bye."
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I thought, all right, okay, bye bye then, bye.
I think every kid goes through that stage where they think their parent's an idiot. Like I think that's inevitable, where they feel as though they have more knowledge than their parents.
Oh yeah, it's fine. You know, I remember when you know, I left my wife. You know, my wife left me, and the children went, and I thought, well, you know, that I won't see him again, but then I did. But the
Mhm.
trouble is, it was kind of the behavior between me and my ex-wife
Yeah.
was sort of kind of like, I think it was a bit harsh sometimes because the children didn't know what to do because they were like pulled between, you know, like between each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like a tug of war game.
Yeah.
You know, so the behavior kind of like actually changed from that, and it really got bad where, you know, my mum said that you did this, then next minute it was like a two-way thing, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Even when you're still together as parents, there's that conflict,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Particularly if you're not on the same page with regards to parenting styles. I mean, my kids, even with my wife and I being together, certainly have issues around that. Now, it's usually issues of jealousy, right? Issues of who's getting the most attention at any given moment. And, we've spoken about the challenges I have with my middle daughter and her desire to commit suicide. The older one and the younger one have developed intense senses of jealousy because of all the attention that the middle one has gotten due to, her requiring it right now because, she has a lot of self-loathing and she requires more attention and care and love. But the other two, they're very resentful of her for that. And so we are trying to work past that. We had a family meeting over the weekend where we sat down and had to adjust our set of family rules and guidelines and consequences because things were getting out of hand with regards to the jealousy. My oldest one in particular was starting to become very cruel with the middle one because she had so much resentment towards the attention that the middle one was getting. And so we had to come up with a way to resolve that. And we gave the girls the opportunity to participate in how we were going to resolve that. So they had to sit and come up with resolutions for dealing with it and come up with the consequences for acting outside of that family agreement. But it was a hard conversation to break it down and say, look, I understand that you're jealous right now, but the way that you're behaving is cruel, and it's having a significant impact on your sister's desire to be around and her self-confidence. And so kind of treating them as if they're adults and having those higher level conversations has been important.
Yeah, yeah. I just kind of like, I was just reading my notes then, and on there I put like tantrums, because they
Yeah.
sometimes they do get into a great big tantrum, and
Yeah.
they kind of like, it's then it's not only that. If you've got any other children in the family too, it does kind of like, it does. It's like a kind of like a tidal wave, isn't it? It just
Yes.
runs down,
Very
and
much so.
yeah, it's terrible. How
Yeah.
do you cope that? How do you cope with your children then?
Oh, I used to deal with it really badly. I used to get really upset with the crying and the tantrums and would immediately remove them from the situation and isolate them, which has definitely contributed to some issues around um, their own ability to deal with tantrums, that sort of thing. Because I made crying a bad thing, they disconnected from their emotions, which was not the right way to deal with it. Um, what I should have done and have started doing is getting on their level. So standing over them, as much as it may seem like something that isn't a big deal, it is a big deal because it's you in a position of power as an authority, telling them what to do rather than getting down at their level and getting to the root of what it is that's making them upset so that you can address the issue. Understandably, the tantrum is not ideal. It shouldn't be happening. But in that situation, getting upset or trying to pull them out of the situation doesn't solve it. It just reinforces it.
Yeah.
So getting to the root cause of the issue is more likely to solve it faster and to give you an idea as to what to expect in the future, and to set up a muscle memory sort of thing for them that if they get upset, they're going to be able to communicate with you to solve the problem and move forward. And so this is something that I've really, worked on over the past 5-6 months, and it has shortened the tantrums dramatically. I don't allow the kids to lie down and throw a fit. I make them stand up or sit up, and then I will get very close to them, ask if they need a hug, offer reassurance, those sorts of things, which tends to shorten the life of the tantrum and allows me to get to the root cause faster. But it
Yeah.
is so hard to do as a parent. Oh my God, as a dad, it's so hard to do when your kid is freaking out, particularly in public, to be able to just calm down and not start screaming, because
Yeah,
that's your
no.
immediate, that's what you want to do, right? Because they're pushing your emotions up at the same time, and you want to
You want to get hold
explode.
of them and strangle them, don't you?
Oh yeah, it's
Shut
that's
up.
a natural feeling to go through, but you
Yeah.
have to, much like you're trying to train muscle memory in your kids on how to deal with situations, you have to train that muscle memory for yourself as well, right?
Yeah.
You have to change what your pattern is for how you react to certain things, and that is really hard to do.
Yeah.
I still fail at it constantly, but I am significantly better now than I was 6 months ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did you deal with it when your kids had tantrums? What was your go-to?
My go-to
Yeah.
was the front door. Or the back door.
Or the back door, yeah. Just
Yeah.
get out of the house.
Yeah. I don't know. I just, the trouble with me, I was strict, I was harsh. If I only had to point to them, and that was it.
Right.
But when they got older, they didn't take the notice of me, so I just kind of like, I either kind of like stopped their pocket money,
Mm-hmm.
or I stopped everything else and banned them from going out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
uh,
the issue is in today's day and age, banning them from going out doesn't really stop them from doing anything.
yeah,
It's
no,
too easy for them to get out anyway. So one of the things we use is technology time, because I can lock all their technology from my phone. But at the same time, there's only so long that is going to last. Like the control mechanisms, fear-based control, is only going to last for my kids for so long. So I'd much rather build up that respect form of leadership and guidance, where they want to earn my respect and praise, because that will last significantly longer than the stick, right? Than the punishment and consequences portion.
mm.
So I
Yeah.
got to develop a really strong carrot, basically.
Um. So, what is normal behavior for a child? What do you reckon?
I don't think there's anything that is normal. Every single one of them is totally different and is going to behave completely differently. Like I mean, I have 3 daughters, and they're all completely individual personalities with completely different issues, and completely different situations. My youngest is cuddly and compassionate and thoughtful, but at the same time, she's a bit of a hoarder. And recently, she has started taking things from around the house and hiding them in her room, right? Which is a big issue. She recently, this weekend, took something from her grandparents' house and brought it home and hid it in her room without her grandparents knowing. So we're trying to nip the whole, kleptomania in the bud kind of thing. And
Yeah.
then the middle one is empathetic. She's such a huge empath. She's outgoing, those sorts of things, but she has massive issues with self-loathing, with shame, and suicidal thoughts. And then my oldest one is very intelligent, very thoughtful, but at the same time can be cruel and very, very harsh with her sisters. And so each one, not just depending on age, but depending on their personality, has completely different issues with other kids and with their family and all that sort of thing. So I think normalcy in children is a fallacy, that
Yeah.
every single one of them is going to behave differently in every single situation.
Oh, of course, yeah. Because
Yeah.
every child has got their own personality, as you said, haven't they?
Yeah, but I think that's one of the big issues we have as parents, is we set expectations for how our kids should behave, and they never meet those expectations, because the expectations are this, average that we're using for this massive spectrum, and they're never going to meet those expectations. So
Right. Okay.
you have to set up and explain to your kids what character traits you respect, appreciate, and treasure, and allow them to develop towards those character traits.
Okay.
But to put expectations on them in terms of normal behavior, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Okay. So if I'm a parent now,
Yeah.
right? So, and if, well, I am a parent, but
Yeah.
if there's a parent out there, right, and they're asking you the question,
Mhm.
what can I do to change my child's behavior? What would you say?
That's a good question. It depends on what behavior you're trying to change. I mean, this is exactly what our podcast is all about. Is breaking down each of these different behaviors. So we just did an episode on, as an example, getting your kid outdoors more. We've done things on screen time and how to get your kids more active. We've done stuff on bedtime routines and we've got one coming out on table manners and all sorts of things. So it's really going to depend on each situation. And there's usually 3 or 4 things that you can do that are relatively simple. But I would say that the number one thing is just communication. That is the best way to get your kid to do anything, is to have open lines of communication with them, to set and through that communication, set what the expectations are, and an understanding of what the consequences are going to be if they don't meet those expectations.
Right.
That's the number one thing.
Okay. So, all I can say is this then, about what can you do to change the child's behavior, is really we got to kind of like, do we actually kind of like punish them, or do we kind of like actually just ignore them?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of the two. I would probably stay away from punishment, because punishment is like above and beyond the consequences for an action. I would try to stick with, if you have a meltdown in the restaurant, we will leave and you won't get to have dinner at the restaurant. Like, that's a consequence of the action. A punishment would be, if you have a meltdown in this restaurant, I'm going to spank you. Right? They're not related. Right? One is a physical punishment versus a consequence. And so I would say that it's a combination of carrot, not bribery, but if you behave in the restaurant, you are going to have the opportunity to have dessert, right? With a consequence where, if you do not behave in the restaurant, we are going to leave the restaurant. You will not get the opportunity to have dessert, and you're going to have an apple and a sandwich for dinner, right?
Right.
So it's you have to have both sides of it. So you're creating a middle ground where they get to accomplish what it is that they really want.
Okay. So, um, there's another way of dealing with it. Is, do you ever use the timeout method?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Timeouts are something that there's a lot of parenting advice pundits who will say that timeouts are awful and really damaging to your kids, those sorts of things. I don't necessarily agree. I could see how too long of a timeout for young children could be detrimental, but it allows the kids to regain their composure. It gives them an opportunity to recenter themselves, to get their emotions out without their emotions being denied. And then allows them to re-engage when they are ready to, when they can communicate. Because when they're in a tantrum state, it's very difficult without calming them down to get them to communicate at all. So the
Yeah.
timeout can be really helpful. It's just a matter of making sure that your timeouts aren't unreasonable for their age. Like a 3-year-old should not have a half-hour timeout. That's a half an hour for them is forever, right? 5 minutes is likely enough for them to move on beyond their tantrum.
Right. Okay. Okay. Because sometimes that's what that's what people say, about timeout, because I never used to do that because when I had my children, timeout was not thought of. You know what I mean? So,
no,
um,
it was spankings and wooden spoon and that kind of stuff, right? That was
yeah. Yeah. Um. So we say all that. How would I encourage, right? How do I encourage new desired behavior then?
I think similar to what we were just talking about with regards to carrot and stick, right? Is the coming up with, okay, communication. So here's what we'd like to see you do. So as an example, the family meeting that I had on the weekend with my kids, right? We came up with a family agreement that all the kids signed, that sort of thing. And it was, here are the things that we want to do. Here are the things we do not want to do. Here are the consequences if we do not do them, right? And that open communication created a framework of, here's what our expectations are. Here's what you're going to receive in the event that you do these things. Here is what's going to happen in the event that you do not do these things. And here are how those consequences are going to escalate in the event that you continue to not do these things. And that, it doesn't work perfectly, but nothing works perfectly. So you have to expect that you're going to have to constantly reinforce it. And so what's an example of something you'd like a kid to do? Eat their vegetables, right?
Yeah.
So if you eat your vegetables, here is what's going to happen. We're going to have dessert afterwards, whatever it may be. If you do not eat your vegetables, then you don't get to eat dessert. What we can do is talk about the amount of vegetables you're going to receive, right? And so you have communication about the amount of vegetables. You give them control, a sense of control over the outcome and how much in vegetables they're going to eat. Because reality is, you want to just build it up and you want to positively reinforce the activity, so that they have a desire to do it and that it becomes muscle memory for them, rather than, if you start off saying, okay, you have to eat this much vegetables and it's too much for them and they're full, they get uncomfortable, that's going to reinforce how much they don't like the vegetables. So if you start off small and build up, you're much more likely to succeed in the activity.
Yeah. So with the so we can all kind of like, when our children are doing good, we should have we reward them. When they're not, we should not. Uh, is that your policy then?
Not only not reward them, but there should be a consequence. But the consequence should be something that they understand and is appropriate to the situation. Right?
Okay.
Not eating their vegetables, so sending them to their room for the rest of the night is probably an overkill consequence, right? That's punishment versus consequence. So you have to make sure that it's relatable, that it's going to reinforce the behavior that you want them to do, rather than making you feel like you've rewarded yourself by punishing them, right? It's something that should be reinforcing positive behavior, rather than making sure that they feel terrible about what they've done. Because when you do that, when you try to make somebody feel bad for what they have or have not done, is you create a shame cycle. And that shame cycle leads to decreased self-confidence and self-loathing and all these sorts of things. All the stuff that I'm seeing with my middle daughter now, probably because of the way that I parented over years. And so now I'm in a situation where I'm trying to course correct because I wasn't doing things the right way.
Right. Okay. So if people watching now and they're kind of and their children's behavior is really out of control and everything, what do you advise them?
Find out why. I mean, that communication is the first thing, right? Anytime you can get your child in an environment where they're calm and willing to talk to you, you're going to start to understand what it is that is generating that behavior. That's the first thing. And that's what we started with our middle daughter. It's also what I do regularly with my older daughter to figure out why she's being mean to her younger sister. Mm-hmm. Right? Is getting an understanding of what is it that's making you do this? Why is this behavior coming up? And continuing to ask the question deeper and deeper and deeper, because the I don't know doesn't help either of you. Right? Yeah. It's you have to it takes time to develop that communication, that rapport with the kids, where they're going to share those things with you.
Brilliant. Well done. There you go, guys. That was really good, wasn't it? And if you need some more information, go on to Crossroads Podcast UK page. All my notes will be on there. There's loads of it. Couple of questions on there too. It's a bit of a quiz type thing. And what we're going to do, we're going to give something away. I don't know what we're going to give away yet, but next week we will look at it and what we'll do, we'll pick the best answers and everything, and we'll give you a little prize. Probably a little lollipop, something. No, I'm only joking. But no, we'll give you something. So what you've got to do is you read it through and everything else you got. If you've got any problems with your behavior and everything, I can't help you, but there's a lot of help on our podcast, on our website and everything, and we've got counselors on board, everything. So yes, so please do, and thank you very much. Don't forget, I'm going to be back around about 8 o'clock, I think. No, 8:30 tonight, and so anyway, then later on we got Amber Crawley, all the way from United States of America. Again, always America, see? We always get these people from United States, I don't know. I think they're just drifting in the sea and we pick them up. But anyway.
Thanks so much for having me, Steve. It's great to chat with you as always, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Yes, see you next week, Warren. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. There you go. That was Warren. And yeah, the notes will be on right now. Soon I come up. Bye-bye.